Because running is number one still. All right, guys, that being said, do you want to follow me in a workout? Let's go. So, first dynamic warm-up, I like to start with some good mobility. So, sometimes I go into world's greatest stretch. That's one of my favorite stretches. So, I didn't name it. It's called world's greatest. So, you want to pull your shoulders back. I'm in a nice lunge. My knee is over my ankle. My back leg is behind me straight. Pull your shoulders back and rotate open. Keeping your front foot down, big toe down, but then press your knee out slightly. Driving your back heel, pulling your shoulders open. Then bring that forearm down for instep. Then rotate open. Then drop that forearm down. Then rotate open. Really keep your shoulders away from your ear. Keep that knee pressed, but keep that solid toe down. And instep. And you can really sink in here and feel those adductors as well. And I'll do like 3 to 5 each side. So then you can go to your other side, pull your shoulders back, rotate open, instep, rotate open, instep, rotate open. Then I tend to go into some nice 90-90 switches to get my internal external rotation of my femurs and my hips. So 90 degrees, the reason it's called 90-90 switches is 90 degrees to 90 degrees. Put my 2 hands in, I'm going to bring my chest forward, I'm going to kind of sink my sit bone back and hinge over that front leg. And I'm going to bring my hand back to get more into this back leg, which is an internal rotation. This one's an external. And just sink back and hold that for a second. I'm just going to do 3-second holds and rotate, getting both external and internal. And this is more of an iso hold. And I'll do that 3 to 5 times in each side. Then I'll move into 90-90 switches, which is that same move going side to side. If you're pretty tight, you can use your arms behind you and just reach and then put your arm behind you. I'm not moving my feet, as you can see. I'm just rotating side to side. And then as you get better, keep your back flat. Rotate. Keep that knee space. Keep that flat back. That's another great warm-up. If I am deadlifting, I am going to do some spinal flexion and extension, which would be like a cat-cow. So it really preps that spine for that move and gets both extension and flexion. So I really like the cat-cow for that. I bring my neck into it, kind of segment through vertebrae by vertebrae. Because there's a lot of load on the spine, even when you're in neutral spine, which you should be when you deadlift. And you've noticed I'm awful at extension, which a lot of people who are on their bike, running a lot, always on the computer, in that forward position, you'll see that their extension is not super awesome, but then their flexion is great, just like me. So making sure you throw in some extension and really trying to get that extension in the back. You don't have to force it, just get some spinal motion. It's going to really help with any low back pain as well. So those are some good quick mobilities. There's a lot more to do, but I just want to show you a few. And then I always do single leg deadlifts. I literally do them almost every day after every run, in my dynamic warm-up and in my cool down, especially after a run. But before weights, I always, so a single leg deadlift, you want 3 points of contact, big toe, outside, and heel, even weight. You want your hips squared. I'm going to go sideways so you can see that. You want to get your lats and shoulders packed. You want to knit the ribs. You want to keep your hips square. Then you're going to pivot. And what I like to also think about is this is all one piece over that standing leg. And you're going to shift your pelvis, kind of like a teeter-totter, over that standing femur. And you're going to make sure to squeeze your glute to come up. I also call these tippy birds or runner's touches. This is a slight. You're going to hinge a little bit back from those hips. And then you want to squeeze your glute to come up. What I don't want to see is bending over and then kicking your leg up. That's obviously a back move and you're not hinging. So you should have no motion. If you need to put your hand on your low back and on your stomach and make sure you did not shift or arch your back or lift from your chest when you come up, that can help. A dowel, like even a broomstick handle, along your back can really help you keep that nice straight line. And I do 7 to 8 of those each side. Sometimes I add a big, oops, I just lost my balance, a big knee drive with it, with a hinge, knee drive, keeping that core. When you do that knee drive, make sure you're not leaning back at the top, and you're also, make sure you're not, when you come in, coming to here, or tucking that pelvis. You want to get that hip all the way forward, nice and tall into that vertical plank. When you run, hip extension is really important. So you want to be nice and tall through that motion. The other thing you want to make sure is that you didn't hip lift. You see how that changed my whole femur? So keep those hips square. When you run, you really want no pelvic motion. You want nice, steady hips. Watch all the videos. It doesn't matter who you watch in the Olympic Games or pros. They all look different, right? There's one thing you're not going to see is hip motion. They're going to be nice and forward, and they're not going to be rocking side to side. And if they are, they're about to get injured. So look at all the greats. It's the number one thing I see in a lot of people that have bad glute firing or core, or that they're not in that forward lean. So be careful of that hip rotation as well. Then we're going to go into a little bit more active warm-up. So this is where you're going to go into some farmer's carries, some monster walks to get the glutes firing, and adding in some plyometric, gentle, like skipping. Not like the full plyo yet. That would be in power. But we want to prep the body, the lower legs, the feet, the glutes. So that's what you go into next. So what you do next usually is farmer's carries, one of my favorites. So I grab heavier the kettlebells in here than this, but I'm just going to start with this. So you're going to get into position, shoulders back, hips forward, rib cage knit, and then I want you to get into a forward lean, like you're about to take off. Then I want you to walk in as straight of line as possible, keeping those hips forward, watching, tucking that pelvis as you go. So keep those hips forward as you walk, keeping that glute squeeze, and then you'll just go, usually I go, 50 meters back and forth. I have a small screen here, so I'm just going to go back and forth so you can see. You want those hips forward, shoulders back. I even press the weight slowly into the, lightly into the ground to keep my traps down, keeping those hips steady. And I'll walk like that back and forth for about 50 meters. So this is really engaging the stability in the entire core. You're activating along the chain, and you're working running form, you don't even know it. Hiking, running, all of it. So those are really big keys. It might feel easy. Grab heavier weights on your next round, but the key is not about that in the warm-up. So we're just trying to activate the whole chain. The next thing I would do is maybe a lateral monster walk. So I'd grab a mini band, and I forgot to grab one, so let me go grab one real quick. It'll be super fast. It's just right here. Of course, I'm going to grab the heavy one, but whatever. I want to fire my glutes up too right now. So mini band, I love these for activation. So I'm going to go in the arches on my feet and go into a Romanian deadlift position, because that really fires that glute med and piriformis. So you want to hinge into position in a Romanian deadlift. So normally people do quarter squats. What I like about a Romanian deadlift position, if you notice my back is still flat, my shoulders are back, my core is tight, is we're going to target that glute med and glute min and piriformis a little more than the glute max. You're still going to get that fire too, but this is a hard spot for a lot of runners to get active and fired. You've heard of piriformis syndrome. So I really like this version. I do them all, by the way, but this is a good one if you've never done it. And then you're just going to walk laterally, keeping that knee space, making sure not to rock as you go side to side. I'm going to show you from this angle. So I get into that Romanian position. I'm nice and shoulders are back, core is tight. Keeping that knee spread, I'm going to keep my weight centered and walk side to side. What I don't want to see is this, or rock and push, or your shoulder shifting, or your knee dropping in. You want to keep that space. You want to keep that reach back. Make sure you didn't shift forward to get quads. Reach it back, keeping that core. Keep your hips steady and keep your weight centered as you move. Keeping that knee space. And again, I'll do this back and forth. If I have a small space, I'll just go back and forth in it for like 30 seconds. Or I'll go down 30 feet and come back 30 feet. But make sure when you shift, you don't start doing this as you go to try and shift to those quads. I really want to focus back here to get that active, especially because I'm doing Romanian deadlifts today, which is a really important posterior chain work, really firing the hamstrings. It's also very good eccentric lengthening of the hamstrings, so that's a great warm-up to get those glutes ready and fired. Now, you're not trying to go to exhaustion to where they turn off because you fired them out. You're just trying to get them fired, so it's only like 30 seconds just to get them all warmed up. So those two moves are really great. Then I might go into, like I said, an easy light plyometric, like a skip or a lateral skip. That's one of my favorites that most people don't know about, so I'll demo a lateral skip since it tends to confuse people a little bit. So I'm going to back up a little bit. So when you do a lateral skip, it can confuse you and start throwing with your brain. So I usually start just in a normal skip. So we're just driving from here. Then I'm going to push with this leg on this side to move that way. And just push a little, keeping that skip. And then I can add a little more power with it. I'm going to go back and just show push, push. And that can just wake up your whole system, get your foot firing, and some lateral motion with it, which is also really important for runners since we're always in that forward plane. So I usually do 2 rounds of my warm-up. We just walk through kind of a sample. Usually it's only 10 minutes long, 10-15 minutes, and 2 sets. So, and then that really gets you ready for your power phase, which I'm going to show you. I'm going to take a break, and we'll start up in part 2 into power and correctionals. And then part 3 we'll do strength, and 4 we'll do our core, cool down, and mobility. So thanks for joining. Tune in for part 2.